access to the act. So we just take some objective of the act. Like I said earlier, basically the act is just there to govern the processing of personal data of Nigerians. So these are some of the objectives of the act. It's governing framework for processing personal data. It provides framework for processing personal data. It stated clearly the right of data subjects. It ensures data security. It gives provisions for cross-border transfer of personal data. It provides the requirement if you are transferring data from this country to any other country, from this jurisdiction to another jurisdiction, what are those things you need to know before doing that? The requirements for, it also provides requirements for data control and data processor of major importance. Like I said earlier, you need to, it give you information on what you need to do as a data controller and what your obligation are as a data processor. Compliance agreement, it provide compliance agreements. If you don't follow the law, what are the punishments for the data controller or the data processor? And what are the penalties that the commission can impose on any offender of the act? So basically, if you take your time to study the act, you will get most of this information. Next slide. Application scope, like I said earlier, you have the territorial scope of this particular act. What does the act cover? What does it not cover? The act basically cover a data controller, data processor. Once you're a data controller, data processor in Nigeria, the act cover domicile or resident or operating in Nigeria. Once you're a data controller, data processor, I've given the definition of data controller and data processor. Once you are domiciled in Nigeria, the act covers your operation. And even when you are not in Nigeria, like you have some social media giants, some e-commerce websites, like Temu, like Jumia, like Amazon, like eBay, they are not domiciled in Nigeria, but they are operating in Nigeria. The act covers their operation. So processing of personal data occurs in Nigeria. Once the processing occurs in Nigeria, the act covers that. The data controller or processor is not domiciled or resident or operating in Nigeria, but is processing personal data of data subjects in Nigeria. So not like you are not present in Nigeria, but you are outside the country, maybe like a company outside Nigeria, maybe a country in Europe, but you have Nigerians on your database, you are processing personal data of Nigerians. You still need to comply with that, even when you don't have a physical office in Nigeria. You are not operating in Nigeria, but you are processing the personal data of Nigerians. Then the act covers your operation. Next slide. So, like I said earlier, you have some exceptions to the act. So these are some of the exceptions. Processing of personal data for personal or household purpose, maybe processing of personal data between husband and wife, between father and his children. The act doesn't cover that really. You can report your wife to us, you can report your husband to us. If you share any information with your family, that's basically your issue. You should find a way to protect this information. The commission can't really delve into those kind of activities. Processing of personal data carried out by competent authority from law enforcement. So we have law enforcement in Nigeria, and they need to do some certain activities based on public security, based on national security. So the act gave them some exception. But you should understand that the exception is not blanket. There are some grounds where the act will not be applicable. So once you study the act, you'll be able to see some of these grounds. So publication in public interest for journalism, educational, artistics, and literacy purposes to the extent that such obligations and rights are incompatible with such purposes. The establishment, exercise, or defense of legal claims. So you have some of these things. If you really take your time to study the Act, you will understand some of these areas. Next slide. So please note, like I said earlier, this exception given to law enforcement to household processing, the exceptions is not a blanket exception. You need to, the exceptions are subject to the rights and freedom under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, and its limitation. So even though this obligation under Part 5 is basically talking about the exception in the Act, does not apply to this exception. So you have some of the sections that clearly stated when those exceptions are applicable. So if you take your time to study the Act, you understand, you'll be able to understand what we say here. Next slide. So let's come to the key aspect of this particular position. We need to pay attention to this principle of processing personal data. Before you process personal data, maybe as a data controller, a data processor, you understand what are the principles you need to observe before you process personal data. NIPOS as an organization, before you collect information of data subjects or to be able to deliver on your mandate, what are those things you need to consider before you delve into processing of personal data? The first one is lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. There needs to be a legal ground while you are processing personal data of data subjects. NIPOS is a government organization that has been set up to handle correspondence of Nigerians. You're supposed to deliver items, move items around the country, move correspondence around this country, move letters around the country. You understand? But in doing this, you need to have access to personal data of the people you are going to be delivering this service to. So in this lawfulness now, we deal with the power that has been given to NIPOS to be able to carry out this duty. So what we're saying is there should be a lawful ground on why you are doing what you are doing. Why are you doing it? Is it that you are empowered by the Constitution? Is it by an act of parliament? Is it by a regulation or a circular? There should be a lawful basis why you are doing it. And in carrying out this particular processing, you need to be fair to the data subjects. You need to let them know why you are doing it. They need to be informed on why you are doing it. You need to be transparent about it. You can't be shady about the processing that you are carrying on. You need to be able to let them know why you are doing this. Maybe like on your website, you need to have like your privacy policy, stating clearly why you are collecting those information you are requesting from data subjects. They need to know what their rights are. You understand who you are sharing this information with, the purpose of collecting it, why you are collecting it, how you are going to be storing it. All this information needs to be clear to the data subjects. They need to be clear from the onset. You understand? I'm expecting a package from outside the country. Somebody is sending a correspondence to me. I'm expecting a package. What are those information you need from me? Okay, maybe you need my name, you need my phone number, you need my email address. I provided NIPOS with this information. So after delivering those items to me, what are you going to be doing with my information after? Are you going to be deleting it immediately? Do you need to save it for your own record keeping? You understand? Maybe you need to keep it you need to save it for record keeping. How long are you going to be saving it? Once you are not doing anything with what are you going to be doing with it? Are you going to be deleting my information? Do you have any organization you are working with outside the country? I'm expecting a package from outside the country. Obviously, a courier company will take this information from outside this country before it will be delivered to NIPOS. And are you sharing my information with those people? So all these things you need to be transparent about. You need to let your data subjects know why you are collecting this information. So you also have purpose limitation. So what's the reason for collecting this information? You need my name, you need my phone number, you need my email address. Why are you collecting it? You're collecting it because you want to deliver an item to me. You understand? Outside this purpose, is there any other thing you want to use my information for? You need to let me know. You need to let me know. The reason why I come to NIPOS in the first place was to be able to get a package that I'm expecting from outside the country. You understand? That's the purpose why I came to NIPOS in the first place. So if I am now receiving any other information that is outside that particular purpose, that's against purpose. That's against principle of purpose limitation. You are going outside the reason why you collected my information in the first place. Maybe one of your staff or some of your staff is now sending information to me that in case you want to do laundry, in case you want to send money to somebody outside the country that can do that for you. You understand? This is outside the purpose why I came to NIPOS in the first place. You understand? So you need to observe the principle of purpose limitation. Then you also have data minimization. The information you are collecting must be specific, must be relevant to what you want to do. You understand? If any information you don't need to collect it, because the more you collect, the more you have to protect. You understand? Okay, I'm expecting a correspondent from outside the country. What information do you need from me? You need my name, you need my phone number, you need my email address, you need my house address because you need to deliver the item to my house. So when you are now asking me what's my hobby, what's my favorite dish, you understand? I feel this is outside the scope of what services I'm expecting from you. So that's what data minimization is talking about. Minimize what you are collecting to what is specific and what is important to the activities you want to carry out. So the principle of data minimization too is also very, very important. Then you have accuracy. The information you are collecting, how accurate are they? You understand? You need my house address to be able to deliver an item to me. If I've given you information that is not accurate, you will not be able to deliver on your services. You understand? You will not be able to deliver your service. So you need to make sure the information of the data subjects you have are accurate, are up to date, and they are on point to what you need to do. Then you also have storage limitation, like I explained earlier when I was talking about transparency. You need to let me know how long you're going to be storing my information. I've given you my name, I've given you my phone number. It's even possible maybe you have a payment portal integrated into your website. Maybe I've used my ATM, I've used my card and my payment card on your website. You understand? How long are we going to be storing this information? You understand? Is it that any other time, every other person can just have access to the information? You understand? Is it a one-off thing? You need to be very sure. You need to let the data subjects know how long you'll be storing data. So for an organization, you need to have a storage. How will I put it? You need to have a storage policy. You understand how long are you going to be saving this data you are collecting? Your data subject. You understand how long are you going to be collecting it? The industry you are operating, I know for a fact in some sectors in Nigeria, you can keep information for minimum of 10 years. So I don't know if it's the same with NIPOS. You understand? You should be able to claim there's no specific regulation governing how long you're going to be storing information. Then you need to come up with a policy to be able to guide against that. You understand? You need to have a clear policy on how long you're going to be storing information of data subject. Is it going to be for 5 years? Is it going to be for 10 years? So basically, that's what storage limitation is talking about. You can't keep data perpetually. There needs to be a time where this information will not be useful again. You understand? Because the more you keep, the more you'll be paying money on keeping this information. You understand? You need to get a server. You need to get a server in the cloud. You understand how many gigabytes of storage do you need to have for you to be able to deliver your mandate? So storage limitation basically is trying to let you know that there should be a limit to what you are going to store. Then let's move to integrity and confidentiality. The information you are collecting, what's the source of it? How secure is the source where you're collecting this information? So basically it's talking about the integrity of information you have with you. Then confidentiality. Who are those people that have access to this information? Is it that you are initial and you have access to accounting information? It's not supposed to be. You are in the accounting department and you're having access to the nominal role of staffs, the information that is relevant to what is not relevant to your own activity. You understand? So confidentiality is basically talking about who have access to this information. You understand? So basically, these are the principles you need to be very, you need to take note of it before you process personal data. Lawfulness, fairness, transparency, purpose limitation, why collecting this information, the purpose you're collecting this information for, data minimization, minimize what you are collecting because the more you collect, the more you are obliged to protect, and you're going to be spending more on server data security because you need to protect what you are collecting. Accuracy of what you are collecting, the data you've collected, how accurate they are, updated they are. You understand? Because accurate data will let you make appropriate planning. You understand? But the information you have, if they are not accurate enough, you understand, then you might not be able to plan with it. We also have storage limitation. You understand? Like we said earlier, so you have a policy around storage. How do you store information you have? How long are you going to be storing it? Then we also have integrity and confidentiality. You understand the information they have, what's the source, how secure is the source of collection. You understand who are those that have access to it. So these are the principles of data processing. Next slide. So these are just some explanation. I've explained this already. So you can just take your time. We are going to be sharing the slide with you. So you can take your time to read through it. Like I said earlier, lawfulness, fairness, transparency. There must be a legal ground while you are processing personal data. You need to be transparent about it. You need to let the data subject know why you are doing it. You don't take data subject by surprise. You know, I need to let them know from the start. Purpose limitation. The purpose needs to be specific, explicit, and legitimate. The reason why you are collecting. Data minimization, necessity, relevance, avoid duplication, don't collect more than necessary. The entries of organization at the gates, you are coming to see maybe you are coming, let's say for instance, I'm coming to the headquarters of my post. I'm coming to see the Director General or the chairman, whatever the case may be. At the gates, you made the security guys at the gates. They asked me to drop my name, my email, my phone number. I drop those. I get to the reception of the organization. They asked me to drop the same information, my name, my phone number, my email address. And I still get upstairs to the Director General's office. He has his own secretary, obviously. And the secretary is still asking me to do same information that I drop. That's unnecessary data duplication. And we are telling the organization to avoid doing all those things. You understand? You should find the means of collecting information once. You understand? Whatever you collect once can be shared by the different departments involved for the activities. You don't need to collect at every point because the more you collect, the more you are putting yourself under a strain to protect. You understand? So if you collect little, you understand, it gives you ample opportunity to be able to protect this information. Next slide. Accuracy, like I said earlier, data needs to be correct and kept up to date. You need to know your customer. You can do KYC to know your customer, make sure that the data they provided is accurate. Maybe this particular customer, this particular time was staying in Marabak, but this year his prayer has been answered. It's not staying in Atama. This information should be updated as soon as possible so that you know that the information you have is accurate. Like we said earlier, storage limitation. Personal data should be kept only for the period necessary for the purposes. You know, so you need to keep data when it's needed, there's no need for you to keep it. You can delete it. So to be able to do it, you need to develop a retention policy, data retention policy. How long are you going to be saving those information? You know, so you need to let the data subjects know. Create retention period for different purposes. It doesn't mean that NIPOS as organization should have one retention policy. You know, the HR, maybe like you have internal stakeholders and you have external stakeholders. The internal stakeholders really are your spouse, the people you work with in-house. You understand? They can develop a different retention policy for their data, for their personal data. Maybe your spouse, you understand how long are you going to be saving, storing their data when they are not working with you. Maybe those that are retired, they need to save their data. You understand? You can have the retention policy for that, different from the policy you have for the external customers you are relating with. You understand? Maybe anybody that has done business with NIPOS outside that is not NIPOS staff, you understand how long are you going to be saving their data. So your retention policy can be different. It doesn't need to be uniform. So that's what this particular sentence is saying. You can have retention pillars for different purposes. So we talk about integrity and confidentiality. You need to prevent unauthorized or unlawful access to data, accidental loss, destruction or damages, data breach reporting. If you have a data breach reporting policy, whenever there are breaches in your nation, how do you report it? There should be a standard SOP for it, standard operating procedure on how you deal with data breach, data loss in the organization. Next slide. So in all of this, you can see that the slide shared earlier, there is no accountability in it. The accountability cut across all the different principles. So what we are saying is, as a data controller, you are accountable to your data subjects. So you need in every aspect of what you are doing to be accountable. Always have it at the back of your mind that you are going to be accountable to your data subjects because they are the major reason why you are assisting. NIPOS is assisting basically because of Nigerians. You understand? And we are not taking them serious. There's no reason for NIPOS assistance. You understand? So what we basically talking is accountability. You need to be accountable to your data subjects. You need to let them know they are the reason you exist as an entity. You understand? You don't take their activities for granted. You don't take the data you collected for granted. At every point, you need to carry them along. You need to inform them. If there's going to be any change of activities, maybe you are moving from one portal to another portal, you understand, you are upgrading your website. At every point in time, you need to carry your data subject along. You need to be accountable to them. That's what we're saying. So we now come to processing of personal data. We have legal basis for processing personal data, or we call it basis for processing personal data. Before you can process data at all, there will have to be a grant for that processing. You just can't wake up and just say, we are a government entity, and then you want to start collecting your information. Why are you collecting it? What do you need this information for? NIPOS can't just wake up that, okay, you want to start collecting data on Nigerians. There should be a reason why you are collecting. Even if the Constitution has given you the power to collect personal data of Nigerians, you understand, you still need to have a basis for processing. We just don't wake up and start collecting. There should be a reason. So the number one here is consent. This is the most applicable one. You understand, because majority of your customer, we have to give their consent before you start processing their information. Maybe, like I said, I'm a customer, I'll come to NIPOS. I'm expecting a correspondence from outside the country, or I want to send a correspondence to Calabar State. You understand? So if it's possible, you ask me for some certain information. They give you the form to fill. Okay, you want to do this, fill this form, give us your name, your phone number. So that's why if you go to a bank credit, you want to open an account. You notice that you are given a form, and behind the form, you always see like an affirmation stating that all this information you have provided are correct, and you're going to sign, or maybe that they give you a box to tick. They give you a box to tick, showing that you give you consent for this information you've given. So basically, consent is talking about the individual grant explicit permission for their data to be processed. You've given, as a data subject, you've given consent that, okay, go ahead and process my data. But the good thing about consent is, the fact that I'm giving my consent for you to process my information does not mean I can't withdraw it. You understand? So you need to develop a consent withdrawal form. You understand? That gives data subject the ability to withdraw consent whenever it's necessary. So you can only, so that's number one basis for processing. Then you also have contractual contracts. We call this contractual. It can be contract, it can be contractual. Data processing is indispensable to fulfill contractual obligation. Like I said earlier, I've approached NIPOS to deliver. I'm expecting a package from abroad. You understand? I've given information to NIPOS. I've made payments on that particular correspondence I'm expecting. You understand? So NIPOS need to provide that information at my address that I've delivered to them. You understand what I'm trying to say? So if NIPOS decide to process my information, you understand, just to be able to deliver on the contract between us, then they've not breached my data as a data subject. They've not breached my data right as a data subject. You understand? Because they are trying to fulfill their own contractual obligation. Maybe like a simple example is you go online, you go to like maybe Jumia, you order a system, you order a laptop, you understand, and you want the laptop delivered to your house. You understand? So if junior decide to process your data, you understand, based on the little information you're giving to them, and they're able to sort out your address, additional information to be able to deliver on, or to be able to deliver the system to your house. But they've not breached your data in any way because they are working within the framework of the contractual obligation between both parties. You understand? That's what we are seeing in this particular situation. So on legal obligation, like I said earlier, NAPOS was set up as a government entity. You understand, to handle Nigeria, to handle correspondence with Nigerians. You understand? So that's legal obligation. They have that legal obligation to process personal data of data subjects. You understand? So they are working within a particular framework to be able to deliver on their mandates. You understand? So that's basically we call legal obligation. You understand? You also have vital interest. Vital interest basically is saying data processing is essential to safeguard someone's life. You understand? Maybe like people that like the federal safety of Nigeria. You understand? Maybe an accident happened and you need to take the data subject to the hospital. In this particular situation, you can't be asking for their consent to carry out treatments. You understand? You understand that the doctor attending to them can't be asking for their consent to be able to treat them. You understand? You can go ahead and do the treatment. Maybe they need blood transfusion. You understand? You can't be now asking for their consent. That do you give me permission to transfuse blood into you? No, you have to go ahead and make that decision for them because in that situation they are in no position to give consent. You understand that you need to safeguard their life. So basically, that's what vital interest is saying. When you make decision for someone that is incapable of making that decision at that particular moment, you understand. Maybe there's no family around, you have a minor, and there's no family and there's no girl there around, and you need to do something to safeguard that minor's life. You understand. So basically, that's what vital interest is trying to explain. When you also have activities processing carried out in public interest, you understand, like during COVID-19 during COVID-19, you understand that you get information from some of your telecommunication companies. You understand, give you information on the numbers of infected people around the country, areas where the virus is very prevalent. You understand? So these activities are carried out in public interest. You understand? So in this situation, really, you can't really see anybody disturbing you. You are carrying out this activity in public interest. So maybe you are going on a particular way, like the Terminal Bridge now. There's a CCTV camera there. You understand what I'm trying to say? So these activities are carried out in public interest. You understand? They are not just, it's not, the CCTV is not there to spy on you. You understand? It's just to safeguard life in case there are accidents so that they'll be able to the public authority will be able to activate their relevant instrument to safeguard people's life. You understand? So you have CCTV on public highways, even from CCTV you have on your streets or the CCTV you have in your compound. You understand? So you need to be very clear on why you are carrying out a particular activity. Then you also have legitimate interest. Data processing is conducted to serve a legitimate business interest. Like NIPOS now, aside being a government entity, it's also running a business. One way or the other, NIPOS is generating fund for the country. So in carrying out activities, NIPOS can rely on legitimate interest to process the data of data subjects. You understand? Because you are being given subventions, but at the same time you are remitting some money back to the covers of the country. You understand? So NIPOS is a system for both things. Yeah, it's a government entity at the same time it's a business entity. You understand? But the good thing about legitimate interest is when it comes to the Data Protection Act, you can't rely on legitimate interest alone to process personal data of that subject. Like you go to Facebook now, you want to open an account on Facebook. Facebook is free. You open accounts for free. You can open as many accounts as possible, and they are not collecting time from you. And you think it's free. It's never free. And you say nothing is free even in free time. You understand? This information is provided. They are using it. They are selling it to advertisers. They are sharing it to advertisers. You understand? So when that they are making their money from it without collecting anything from you. You understand? They are still making money from the information you provided. You understand? So they can rely on legitimate interest to do this. But what we are saying is legitimate interest should not override the interest of the data subject. So ADIAT has provided for that. So as a business entity, you can't rely on legitimate interest alone to do your business. You have to have relied on any of these other legal bases before you can rely on legitimate interest. It's possible you've taken the person's consent, then legitimate interest can now come in. You understand? So, and the good thing is you can rely on one or more of these to do your business. It doesn't have to be one. You understand? You can rely on consent, you can do contractual legal obligation, better interest, public interest, legitimate interest. But what we say is you can't rely on legitimate interest alone to do your business. Why it's possible for you to rely on any of the other grounds alone to process personal data? When it comes to legitimate interest, you can't do that. Next slide. So we go to data subject rights. So those things we stated earlier, those legal basis for processing basically is the obligation of the data controller and data processor. You need to know why you are doing something. You need to be sure why you are doing it, on what basis are you doing it. So after you've done that, you've taken the information of the data subject. Then you should understand the fact that the data subject also have the rights. You understand? So under the Nigeria Data Protection Act, so under data acquisition, these are some of the rights of the data subject. So the foremost objective of the data protection of 2023 is to safeguard the rights and freedom and interest of the data subject. Basically, the act is there for the data subject. Why the data protection are also protected, but the major reason why the act exists at all is because of the data subject, because of Nigeria. Just like the constitution existed because of Nigerians. So any other thing is just outside the scope. So these are some of the rights of the data subjects. Right to be informed. Before your information is processed at all, you have to be informed. If you go to a bank, they'll give you a form to fill. You want to open an account. You understand? They give you a form to fill some certain information. At the end of the day, they ask you to sign to show that, okay, this information are collected freely. You were not forced to provide this information. So you have the right to be informed. You have the right to access any information that you are giving to a data controller or data processor. You have the right to access it anytime you want. You understand? So it's not like you're giving us this information that you can't let you see it again. No, under the Data Protection Act, you can't do that. If you've taken information of the data subject, they have the right of access. Then you have the right to rectify, which is also right to rectification. If I've come to NIPOS and I've given you some certain information, and maybe I went home and I realized that this information is not right, so I've made a mistake, then I have every right to come for rectification. You understand? I have every right to have to rectification. You have to provide your data subject those particular rights. Right to be forgotten. Right to be forgotten also means right to erasure. You understand? If you open a social media account, maybe on Facebook or Twitter, and you feel you want to close your account, you don't like the way people are targeting you, or you just feel like this particular social media is affecting your mental health, you want to close down the account, then you have every right to write to them for them to close your account. Not that you've closed the account, and when people search for your name, your account still pop up. You understand? That's not right. Your right has not been exercised with them. So your right to be forgotten, you have the right to be forgotten in the act. But you should know this doesn't cover when the person has a criminal record. Yes, and you just can't say someone that has been convicted of rape and that's coming towards that, like the Lagos State government, I know for sure, have the sex offender register. So maybe your name has been published in the register, and you serve your sentence, and you are now coming to you are now writing to them that you want to exercise your rights to be forgotten. Your right is not covered under this particular act because you are a criminal already. You understand that the public need to be aware that a rapist is on the loose, so they need to protect their peace. So you understand that your right to be forgotten is not explicit. Then you have the right to restrict processing. Maybe you've been to a supermarket You're giving them your information. And when you're giving them your information, they told you that we are going to be sending you our newsletter, maybe newsletter stating if you have new items, if you have new products, they're going to be sending you letter for the next 2-3 months. Then after the expiration of the 2-3 months, you are still getting this information. Then you have the right to write to them to restrict processing your personal information. You should stop processing. You don't want to receive this information again. So that's your right to processing. Your right to object to the processing of your personal data is still the same thing. Your right to object to automated process. You understand, like there are some like this advent of artificial intelligence. You have some businesses they rely on AI to profile their data subjects. You understand? You want to apply for loan. You want to apply for loan. You want to apply for a job. You understand? They deploy their automated machine to be able to process large amounts of data. And in some of these situations, the machine at times, you understand, the how will I put it, the few that have already been stated clearly what the machines to look out for. So at times it may not be the clear indication of what expertise the data subject really processed. You understand? So automated processing at times just the machine can just put everybody together. That maybe you feel everybody that is from this particular tribe, they are always lazy. Yes, and that has been a general belief. The machine can rely on that to process personal data. Or maybe the machine has been, the machine over time has been structured in a way that it's identified that most people that graduated from this particular university, they are not that their certificate is not that strong. You understand? And this can really affect the data subjects. You understand? So that's why at times you might talk to a particular business, it's not to subject your information to automated processing, that you might want human intervention in the processing, that you want maybe after the machine has processed it, you also want a human to look at it to be sure that those indices that is being used to screen people out are clearly stated and clearly reviewed so that it's not skewed towards you, maybe because of your tribe, because of the school you graduated from, because of your likes and what you don't like, you understand that. So that's what we're talking about automated processing. You have a good right under the data protection plan to that. Next slide. So ensuring data subject rights. So the utmost objective of the Act is to safeguard the fundamental human rights and freedom of privacy. So the data controller is responsible for ensuring compliance with data subject rights. So the data controller, in every information you've collected, you have to ensure compliance with the Act. The same goes with the data processor. The data controller and data processor are responsible for ensuring compliance with data protection rights. A data controller can ensure compliance with data subject right through its policies. So you have to put policies in place that make it easy for you to comply with the Act by, as stated earlier, by having a clear privacy policy. You understand your terms and conditions should be clearly stated. Your privacy policy clearly will state what you are doing with data subjects. Third-party vendors you are working with on data subjects, So you can also have your consent withdrawal form, how you collect consent, and how data subjects can be able to withdraw consent anytime they want. So you have to put policies and procedure in place to ensure compliance with the Act. If you decide not to, the Act empowers the Commission to enforce compliance. The Act empowers the Commission to carry out compliance when it comes to data privacy and protection in Nigeria. So the Commission can visit the organization. It doesn't have to be private businesses alone, even government organizations. The Act empowers the Commission to conduct investigation into activities of every data controller and data processor that the Act covers their activities. So this is just another information for just our personal use. You know that if you are processing personal data of minor children, you need their parental consent. If the parental consent is not available, they need their guardian to provide consent. I need to verify the data subjects you are working with to ensure that they are not minor. You understand that the sensitivity of the data, the kind of data you are collecting, you need to be very sure. We clearly state the classification of personal data from the start. Yeah, personal data and sensitive personal data. So any information you are collecting, if they are sensitive personal data, you make sure that you have additional guidelines. You have to provide additional mechanism compared to when you are dealing with just personal data. Maybe personal data will require additional mechanism for data security. So we have cross-border transfer. And like post-assimilation, we understand this with other organizations outside the country. So at times you are going to be transferring personal data of data subjects to some of these organizations outside this country. So there are some things you need to consider before you do that. You understand there are some indices you have to look at before you transfer personal data of Nigerians to entity outside the country. So that's when cross-border transfer is talking about. The decision you are transferring this data to, you need to be sure that they are complying with some certain provisions before you be able to do that. So that's why cross-border data transfer refers to sharing of personal data across countries or between distinct entities such as international organizations. Section 42 of the Act requires that the recipient of personal data must demonstrate an adequate level of protection for personal data, which are substantially similar to the provision of the Act. Like if you are transferring data to any country outside Nigeria, we need to make sure they have provisions that protect those data. It's possible they have an act, like just the way Nigeria has an act, they might have an act. And in case that they don't have an act, you have to consider additional field. That's what we are seeing here. In evaluating the adequacy of protection, the adequacy takes the following into account. Yes, before you transfer data to data center outside the country, these are some of the things you need to consider. Ensure that there is enforceable data subject rights, that it's just not an open operation that they don't have any laws that governs the processing of personal data in that country. No, you have to be very sure that there are laws that governs the protection of data subject rights, existence of any appropriate instruments. What instrument do they have to protect personal data? Is it that they have a guideline? Is it that they have a framework? Do they have an act, just like Nigeria has an act? Is there like you need to sign a particular agreement? Yes, I need to make sure you need to be aware of all of this. Access of public authority to personal data. Some countries might have data protection, data protection organized entity. Yes, and it's possible it's a unit, it's possible it's a big organization, it's possible it's an agency. But even with this agency, the government have access to this information. Like if you are operating with country like with China, we know China is a communist state. You understand? No matter the information you have, the government will always have access to it. Just as simple as that. It's a communist state. It's a one-state country. In one state country, the president has power over everything. So if the country you are operating with is it like this particular country, all those things need to be taken into account. Existence of effective data protection law, we stated that earlier. Existence of functioning of an independent, competent DPA, data protection authority they have. Is he independent? Is he reliant on the government 100%? Is it that the government have access to all information that they have? You understand? You need to be very sure. Abiding international commitments and conventions. These particular countries, just like you have the ICC, you have like the International Criminal Court. Some countries don't commit to these particular conventions. So the same way you have when it comes to data privacy and protection, is it like a country that have not signed up for any convention? They are not committed to any data protection laws at all. You understand? We have Convention 108 that governs data privacy and protection in Africa. You understand? Is that the country you are dealing with, they don't conform to this particular convention. You need to be very sure. So membership of any multilateral or regional organization, you understand that they just like you have like the BRICS, you have like G7, you have G8. You understand? These are multilateral regional organizations. So you have like NATO. You understand? So the same way with data privacy and protection, you need to be sure that the country you are dealing with, they are part of a particular, they are part of an organization that have rules and laws that governs the processing of personal data. Yes, sir. Section 43 of the Act provides an alternative. With the absence of those adequacy protection that we stated earlier, you understand, there are some other things you can rely on. We can't, because that the country don't have those information, those instruments in place, and you think you can't do business with them. No, it's a global world. You understand, and Nigeria can't really operate in isolation. And if you are talking about globalization, and we operate the digital economy worldwide, then Nigeria can work in isolation. So even when those countries don't, like we said earlier, like China now is a one-state country, it's a communist state. The government will basically have access to all information in that country. But does that now mean we can't do business with China? Obviously, we can do business with China. So far, they have some other instruments that we can rely on. So these are some of those instruments stated clearly in the Act. The data subject has given unequivocal consent to the transfer. You have some Nigerians that are schooling in China. You understand? And before you can do your master's or your program in some of these schools, you need to let them have access to your transcripts. So if you've given access to them to access your transcript, you can give consent as an individual. The Act doesn't stop you from that. The transfer is for performance of the contracts. Maybe you have a business in India that is doing that have a partnership with a business in China, and they've signed a contract. You understand? Then you can transfer the data subject to the fact that they've put up mechanism to protect those data they are collecting. The transfer is for sole benefit of data subjects. Like I said earlier, maybe you have a Nigerian here and is going for medical checkup in India, you understand, or in China. You know the doctor over there cannot treat you without having access to your information. So you can tell your data controller here to transfer your information to this particular organization. That's you've given your consent, you understand, and it's for your benefit alone. The data transfer is necessary for important reasons of public interest. Like Nigeria as a country has some obligation with China. We borrowed money from China. We have some infrastructure. We have some things we do with China. They are building some infrastructure on behalf of Nigeria. You understand? So one way or that we are doing business with them. You understand? So one way or that you need to transfer some certain information to them. You understand? So in public interest, it's possible some of this information transferring to China, you understand, to be able to provide some certain level of services to Nigerians. So if the activities is being done in this way, then you can go ahead. The transfer is necessary for establishment, exercise, or defense of legal claims. You have some Nigerian businesses outside this country. You understand? And it's possible you are doing a defense outside the country and you need some certain information. Then in this particular aspect, the Act doesn't stop you from transferring this kind of information. The transfer is necessary to protect the federal interests of data subjects. You have Nigerians abroad. You understand? Maybe they run into situations. You understand that you need some certain information to be able to, maybe people that have been arrested for drug trafficking, and they need to prove their innocence. You understand? I need to transfer some of this information to be able to defend them over there. But the address is talking from this. Yes, sir. Compliance with the Act requires that a data controller processor meets all obligations provided under the Act. Yeah, so we finished with cross-border transfer. So we have obligation of the data controller. Some of the obligation of data controller is you need to designate the data protection officer. That's for the acronym of data protection officer is DPO. We're not talking about the DPO with the police force. So this one is data protection officers. NIPOS has originally to designate a DPO. NIPOS is a PO organization, so you can't really have one DPO. You need to have a team of DPOs because NIPOS as an entity have offices all across the country. So it's good we have DPOs in almost everywhere if it's possible. And if it's not possible, we need to have DPOs for the critical departments in the organization. Especially those departments that deals with processing of personal data or data subjects, they need to appoint a DPO. Then you need to file your compliance return with data protection compliance organizations. So the kind of model that we run in Nigeria You just can't file your audit. Audit, what we are saying here is your compliance audit is basically talking about how you be complying with the act. You understand? That will give detail of the activities of your processing, how you are collecting personal data, how you are processing it, how you what mechanism are you put in place to store it. So you need to provide this audit to the commission. We're going to assess it and be sure that okay, you are really complying with the act. When filing this audit, you have to go through a DPCO, the Data Protection Compliance Organization. That's the DPCO. They work with your DPO, your in-house DPO, to be able to come up with this audit. And the audit, you are going to file the audit on a yearly basis. So as a controller, we need to know what is called DPIA, Data Protection Impact Assessment. You understand? Like the world is going digital. You understand? The activities are being done online. NIPOS have a website. We are doing some activities online. Customers should be able to have an application on their phone that can direct them to NIPOS and be able to do business without coming to NIPOS offices. You understand? In delivering some of these activities, you need to conduct a DPIA to be sure what are the risks to the data subjects. Maybe you have a platform that ensures that data subjects can access your activity, your services, and also provide for them to make payments online. You understand? You need to have a DPI conducted on those kind of applications to be sure your data subjects are well protected. And when you are engaging a data processor, maybe trying to deliver on some of your mandates, you need to outsource some of the activities to the third-party vendors. You need to be sure, you understand, you need to conduct a DPI of the activities to be sure that they are compliant with the Act 2. You just don't say that we are compliant now, then any other person that we are working with should not be compliant. No, the Act doesn't provide for that. You have to be compliant as an organization, and any other vendors you are working with must also comply with the Act. That's the provision of the Act. If you are not doing this, if anything should happen from your third-party vendors, you're also liable as a data controller. Next slide. Let's go to the first one. Let's go to the comment section. Let's see if can you see some of the questions? There's not much. What are these ones? The slide will be available. Connect them. If you have any question, please put it on the comment section. We are going to be looking at it so that we'll be able to answer it so that we don't waste time. So if you have any question, just put it in the comment section. We are going to be taking that after the class. So let's get to the step. The data controller person must implement measures for establishing data subject consent. Like we already said, if you develop a consent form where if you are taking data subject consent, there should also be a provision for a consent withdrawal form. You should be able to withdraw consent. A mechanism should be put in place to verify children or persons lacking legal capacity to consent. Processing personal data, processing sensitive data. You should put measures in place to safeguard this particular information. Next slide. You should have, like I said, you should have a policy for each notification. You should have a policy of how do you notify your data subjects if there's a breach. How do you notify Data Protection Commission of any breach? You need to document it. It makes your job easier if you have those policies in place. Cross-border transfer of personal data. What are the things you'll be looking at? You understand? You have a policy around that. How do you respond to enforcement orders? Sorry. How do you adhere to principles and law basis for personal data? You need to be sure of the reason why you are processing personal data. You need to be sure of the ground you are using for processing. You need to be sure of the principles you are going to be applying. It's good to adhere to all the principles of processing and it should have a basis for processing. What are the basis for processing? Are you relying on contractual obligation? Are you relying on legal obligation? Are you relying on public interest? Are you relying on vital interest? Are you relying on consent? Are you relying on legitimate interest? All these things should be clearly stated. We should have it as a policy. The appropriate technical and organizational measures to ensure confidentiality. How do you ensure confidentiality in this information you've collected? Yes, how do you ensure the integrity of this information you have with you? And how do you make sure those information are always available? If your customers need particular information, how do you make sure this information are available? We need to develop a policy around this as an organization. So these are some of the enforcement power of the commission. The data subjects who are aggrieved by violation, as we stated earlier, aside for us working for NIPOS, we also have activities that we are doing outside NIPOS. Some of us have bank accounts, we deal with banks, we deal with insurance companies, we deal with laundry services, we go to hotels whenever we are on transit. So most of us are data subjects. So what are your rights? How do you enforce your rights as a data subject? So the commission, the act has provided ways you can do that. The SEC is empowered to enforce the act in the following way. If you complain to us, we have the power to investigate your complaint. We have the power to enforce compliance orders, enforce orders. We have the power to decide if a particular entity has committed any offense, and we have the power to enforce penalty. And as a data subject or a data controller, you have the power to judicial review. If the commission has fined you, or maybe has fined you that you've run foul of the law, you understand that you are not satisfied with what the penalty the commission has enforced, then you have the power to go for judicial review. So if you go to the act, all these are clearly stated there. The commission is empowered to enforce forfeiture. If you feel we need to take some things from you in order to enforce the act, then we have the power to do that. Then you should know that as a controller and as a data subject, you have joint and vicarious liability. You just can't say you're a controller and then you foresaw some of the activities to your processor, then nothing concerns you again. No, you have joint and vicarious liability. Whenever there are issues, you are both responsible. The penalties under the act. The NDBC has the power to impose penalty and remedial fee ranging from any of the two, the other maximum amount. In the case of data controller and players of major importance, like NIPOS is a major data controller. Whenever, if the NDBC find NIPOS guilty of any offense, you have the power to impose a fine of 10 million naira or 2% of the annual gross revenue of the preceding year, whichever is greater. If NIPOS is found guilty of any offense, you have the power to enforce provision of the act. They can be fined 10 million naira or 2% of the annual gross revenue of the agency for the preceding year. It can be an agency, it can be a business. So what this is saying is, if you are found guilty of the offense as a major data controller, you understand, you can fine 10 million naira, 2% of the annual gross of the preceding year for that particular organization. In the case of a data controller that is not of major importance, an organization that is not processing sensitive personal data that much, understand we have the power to enforce the fine of 2 million naira or 2% of his annual gross revenue of the preceding year. So you should know the difference. If it's a person or controller of major importance, the amount is 10 million naira or 2% of the annual gross revenue of that organization. But if it is a processor or controller that is not of major importance, it's 2 million naira or 2% of the annual gross revenue of the preceding year for that organization. Next slide. So basically, let's look at this slide. This is very important for decision makers in NIPOS. So first, we need to develop a data. This is just like a quick summary of everything. that we've been saying that you now a NIPOS acceleration can comply with the act. The number one thing is you need to develop a data privacy policy. Once you have this policy in place, it makes your activity transparent. The data subject is aware of what you do, how you are doing it, what information you are collecting, how you are collecting it, and what you are doing with it after. So it's good to have a data privacy policy that is deployed. All of us will notice because of the NDP Act now, you notice that even the bank apps you have on your phone, immediately you open it, the first thing that will pop up is their privacy policy. That has been through the awareness creation of the commission. You understand? Before now, you don't see that. You have to go through the back end before you see that. But now, once you open any of this app, the first thing you see is the privacy policy. Pretty clearly the privacy policy of those banks. You understand? So as I mentioned to you, it's good for since like we said, it's a global world. NIPOS to is an organization that is a government organization that have partnership with other countries. So it will be good that they are seeing that you are complying with the international standard. So and by doing this, if you have a privacy policy that clearly states all your activities, what you do with data, how you store it, who are your third-party vendors. It really enhance your reputation as an international organization that is compliant to standard when it comes to data privacy and protection. The number two is process data in line with the principles of the Act. We've already stated what the Act are, what are the principles. Principle of transparency, lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. Principle of purpose limitation, data minimization, storage limitation, principle of accuracy, integrity, and confidentiality. These are major principles that you have to comply with. Then the third one is designate a senior officer as data protection officer. Like we said earlier, I need to designate a DPO to be compliant with that. You just don't go for a junior officer. Why it's possible to go for a junior officer with expertise? It's good to have a team of DPOs really. So maybe that your team, you have a senior officer that is very close to the management. Because why this is important is you need a DPO that the management will listen to. You just don't have somebody that doesn't have access to anybody. Maybe you just make a recommendation, nobody is listening to you. So that's why it's good to have a senior person as the DPO of the organization. Somebody that you'll be able to listen to. You understand? So it's good to have to designate a senior person as a DPO. While with the senior person too must also have expertise. Not just a senior person, you must have expertise. And the person must be certified DPO. Register as a data controller slash processor of major importance. Like you said, we have a decision ongoing for data controller, data processor. You have to register as a data controller for ultra high, which I'm sure NIPOS fall under. The amount is 250,000 naira. They are registered. So from what I heard, the NIPOS is compliant, that's good. So the number 5 is engage a DPCO to file data protection audit. You need to work with a DPCO, data protection compliance organization, to file your annual audit with the commission. Then the next one is direct contractors, vendors you are working with. If you have any third-party vendors you are working with, you have to make sure they are compliant with the act. It's not enough that you are compliant as an organization. The vendors you are working with, you need to be compliant. It's very, very important. Next slide. So basically, this is the first aspect of the. We are through with the first aspect of the training, as clearly stated earlier. So the next slide, we'll be talking about technical and national measures. So we are going to be taking like 5 to 7 minutes to take questions and answers from people. We are going to be responding to comments in the comment section. And if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and just ask questions. We are going to be taking questions for 5 to 7 minutes before we take to the second section of the training. Thank you. If you have any question, please unmute yourself while we go through the comment section. If you have any question, unmute yourself and ask question, please.
Hello, there's a question in the chat box. There's a question there. If Corey can show you, sir.
Okay, we're looking at it. So locally already stated, the data controller is an individual or an entity that determines the means and purpose of processing personal data. So that's where data controller is. Then the processor processes on behalf of the data controller. That's the clear distinction between the two of them. Any other question, please, from the audience? Before we go to the next session, any other question? So if there's no question, that means we all understand.
Hello,
this.
sir. Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello, sir.
Good
we can hear you. Good afternoon. You okay? For the time for the prison. Not only some people are joining the issue from some area. Can we be able to get the access to the slide? So that material, yes, so that one they can use it.
Yes, we are going to provide the slide. We are going to provide the slide to the coordinator of this particular training to share with everybody.
Okay, that's it. We can, I think, in the absence of any other question, we can move to the next one, just to save the time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Organization
so that's what we're doing. We are trying to create awareness around it. So after we ensure that we've created enough awareness, there can never be enough awareness, but we have a target. So once we ensure that we conducted trainings like this, and we ensure that major organizations are compliant, then we will start enforcement fully. We've started enforcing some. We've taken some organizations up on their processing activities. Some fine has been issued. You understand? Some investigation are still going on. So basically, we are working on this as an organization. As we continue, we are also creating awareness so that everybody is aware of their obligation as a data controller and data processor. And data subjects also know their rights under the law. So in the absence of no other question, we wait till after the class, then the next presentation will continue. Victor, can you take the class? Victor, are you there?
Yes. I'm here, sir. Good afternoon.
Yes,
Let me just share my screen. Yes. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I am a BK Victor from the IT and Cyber Security Department, and hello, can everybody hear me? Before I continue, can you hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you now.
Okay. Thank you very much for the confirmation. So I said I am a BK Victor from the IT and Cybersecurity Department of the Nigeria Data Protection Commission, and I'm here to briefly present the technical and organizational measures for data protection in our various organizations that is practiced globally and utilized globally. So the Nigerian Data Protection Act 2023 aims to safeguard individuals' rights regarding their personal data and establish clear guidelines for organizations handling such data. And as we know, NIPOS handles quite a huge number of personal data from from the citizens of the country that utilize their services. So according to the section 39 of the NDPA, yes, Mr. Jasper, Mr. Jasper, we can hear you. Are you asking a question?
This is not.
Okay, so according to the section 39 of the NDPA, a data controller and a data processor, that's you can replace data controller and processor as NIPOS, because NIPOS acts as a data controller and also a processor both ways. So NIPOS must implement appropriate technical and organizational measures to ensure the security, the integrity, and the confidentiality of the personal data. This includes protection against accidental or unlawful destruction, loss, misuse, alteration, unauthorized disclosure or access, considering all relevant factors. So we'll go into what data security is. So data security involves the protection of your digital data from unauthorized access, from corruption, from theft throughout its life cycle. And we know the life cycle of data begins from the point you create it, from the point when it's created to when it is at rest to when it is transformed or transferred. I mean to say, when it is being processed. These are all the various life cycle data passes through. So data security involves the protection of digital data from unauthorized access. It encompasses various practices, technologies, and methodologies in order to achieve and safeguard this information. And the objective of protecting this data is to have a proactive way to minimize the consequences as of when a personal data breach is to happen. So with the increase in internet connectivity and the digitization of the global economy, and this has led to a rapid surge in the collection, the use, and the cross-border transmission of data. My senior colleague talked about cross-border, and I'm very sure NIPOS practices cross-border. NIPOS is fully utilizing data across Nigeria, and a trend that has continued to accelerate. So now cyber criminals are continuously evolving. They are evolving their tactics, which they use in exploiting these connections in order to gain financial pleasure, in order to destroy identity of persons. So this necessitates a robust emphasis on why we need a data secured environment. So talking about data breach, after getting informed on data security, a personal data breach refers to a security incident that has resulted in the unauthorized access, destruction, loss, alteration, or disclosure of personal information that is being transmitted or stored, like I said. So when you don't have the proper Hello, Mr. Emeka, do you have a question, sir?
Go on, sir. Go on.
Okay, so when you don't have a data secured organization and it has led to a breach happening, this is what we talk about here. That is what a breach is, and we should be well informed that a data breach is different from a data incident, because incidents happen every day in your workplace. I'm sure incidents happen that might have led to data breach, but a data breach is only when the incident has led to the destruction, to the loss, on the misuse of personal information. So the section 40 of the NDPA sets out strict requirements for data controllers and processors to follow within a 72-hour window of being aware of a data breach. So when a data breach occurs in your organization, of which we are not praying for that to happen, it is in your place to report to the Data Protection Commission within 72 hours as of when it happened. So we have types of data breach: the passive data breach and the active data breach. I think for the passive data breach, it's a type of data breach where it focuses on gathering intelligence without disruption or alteration. So for a clear example, an ethical hacker might be in your system for 6 months, for 3 months, for as long as he wants, just scrubbing information, siphoning your personal information, your payment vouchers, everything concerning NIPOS. The hacker will just be in your system without disrupting your workflow, your network. Everything will be working perfectly, but you will not be aware that there is already a breach occurred in your organization. So that is a passive data breach. This is a type of data breach that focuses on gathering intelligence without altering any data or disrupting the system's flow, the workflow. So example of this is data interception, monitoring network traffic, or information gathering. For the active data breach, we have it involves the action happening immediately, like a malicious attacker who wants to compromise your system. An example of this is the DDoS, that's the disruption denial of service. As a staff of the NIPOS, you come to work and you find out your working tools, you have been disrupted from it. Your password is no longer working and you see anonymous on your screen telling you you have been hacked. You can't access it. So that is the active data breach. That is active data breach. So these are the two differences of a passive and active data breach. And for active data breach, we have social engineering attacks and virus or malware deployments. So often, information security and cyber security are often mixed up. So we want to differentiate them. I know there are some IT personnel here who are fully aware of this, but for those of us that are not IT grounded, information security, often referred to as InfoSec. InfoSec, it involves a set of practices and measures that are aimed at protecting information from unauthorized access or disclosure and disruption. Just information. So information security focuses on protecting of only information from alteration and modification and destruction, putting the right measures in place. While on the other hand, cyber security refers to practicing of safeguarding electronic data, the computers that you use, the network infrastructure, everything that you can possibly use in connecting to the www, everything that you know can have access to network. Now we have Android screens in our vehicles. We have smart homes. You go to the house, you communicate with your house. All these things now utilize the internet. So basically, cybersecurity is protecting everything that can have access to the internet. Every device, every computer, every like it's wide. That's why the need for cybersecurity officers have even gone top notch because of the importance of it. So it encompasses a broad spectrum of protective measures aimed at securing digital information and systems against cyber attacks and unauthorized access or theft. I'm sure we are following. If there's any question, you can just raise your hand and I will quickly explain. So we move on to the CIA triad. The CIA triad is a foundational model in information security that encompasses three core principles: the confidentiality, the integrity, like we've always been hearing, and the availability. So each component plays a crucial role in protecting sensitive information and ensuring the overall security of an organization's data systems. So every system that can prove it's 100% cyber secured must adhere to this CIA triad. It must be the system must have confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And like we see, confidentiality is basically ensuring that the information that is in that system, the information that is in your on-prem cloud storage devices, in your laptop, in your iPads, the information in your system basically is only accessed by you or those that have the access, the authorized access to it. So it includes the protection from unauthorized access, protecting data on systems in transit and in process. While for integrity, it is safeguarding the accuracy and completeness of information and the processing method. Like we go to NIN for correction of our information. We go to NIMC to correct our date of birth and so on and so forth. The reason we do that is to make sure our data that is with them is complying to integrity. It's 100% as of how it ought to be. You're captured as male. Some persons, they capture them as female. But when you want to use your data, that is when you find out that you're being captured as a female when you're a male. So all these are what the CIA triad is focused on, making sure data that is at rest or at transit or that is being processed has 100% integrity. While for availability, it's ensuring that authorized users have access to information. Like now, I can walk up to a bank because they have my information and I will just tell them, please, I need my data. I can walk up to my office, my organization now, the Data Protection Commission, and tell them, okay, I need so data. I can walk up to my university that I've graduated over the years now, that look, I'm having some issues. Give me my data from previous years. So it is in their place to make sure the data is available. So this includes controls for acceptable levels of performance, fault tolerance, prevention of data loss and destruction, reliable backups, and redundancy from the data. So I'll be moving to some types of attacks that are currently used by cyber attackers. They are currently, because of the introduction of artificial intelligence, newer attacks have been deployed, but these are the major attacks that are being used currently. Number one is the phishing attack. So the phishing attack, as the name implies, is divided into three types: whale phishing, spear attack, and pharming. But they all involve sending of fake mails. So phishing attack basically focuses in mail system. We all use mails in our office, like NIPOS is the owner of mailing system, if I would say that, in Nigeria. So there are numerous phishing attacks that might be coming to your mailing server. So the attacker sends fake mails. It will think you as a staff, as a director, as a PAMSEC, or as officer, assistant manager, you might feel it is the postmaster general that is sending you a mail to deliver a particular job role. not knowing it's an ethical hacker that has hacked into your system by sending a fake phishing mail. So now Google and Yahoo Mails and all these are mail servers we utilize. They've brought out strict protocols that will help us to detect these mails. That is why we have spam mails. If you should go to check your spam mails now, you will see more than 1,000 mails there that are all phishing attacks to your system. But these ethical hackers, they've studied these mails and they've made sure they try as much as possible to design their mails to still defeat that protocol that has been set by Google and Yahoo. So at some point, you will still end up receiving those phishing mails as your inbox in your mail. So it is for you, the staff of NIPOS, to do your due diligence to make sure that this mail is actually from the person. We'll actually talk about that when we get to the organizational policy. So the next is SQL injection threat. So the structured query language injection threat is focused on your database. NIPOS uses a database. This SQL is focused on application that is used for database. So they send in a script to your database that makes your database communicate with the hacker by sending whatever information he or she demands via the script. So that is basically SQL injection threat. So for man-in-the-middle attack is when the hacker stays in between your communication channel, in between your network communication. There is a person there that has hacked your system and it just intercepts and alters information. So when information comes from this officer of NIPOS going to this officer, there is a hacker that is in the middle. That is why it's named man in the middle attacker. The hacker stays in the middle and takes information from what's it called, point A, and fine tunes that information and sends it to point B. So the man in the middle attack is very, very common, as it is used also to handle social engineering. So the next one is the cross-site scripting. For this cross-site scripting, there are many websites that we utilize that, because of Eldorado options we see, free bonus we see on internet, we just click on them, not knowing these websites have been designed by hackers to lure you and me into clicking them. Once you click on those websites, they take you to a site that is not really the site. There might be a Facebook site that like an hacker has designed. He has cloned it. I think last month, towards the end of last month, there were attempts. In fact, they cloned the Bank of Industry website. You know, Bank of Industry gives loans to Nigerians. Hackers cloned that particular website and they were extorting information, personal information of Nigerians. Over millions of informations were extorted and it was brought to the Data Protection Commission. So that is basically an example of the cross-site scripting attack. So the distributed denial of service attack, DDoS, like I previously explained, is cutting you off your work tools. You get to your workplace and you find out that via a system that was not properly secured by the officer in charge of that system, like an hacker has been able to access the whole of your organization and has barred you from using your systems. So that is a distributed denial of attack, and the aim of this is to demand also for ransom, for money to be paid. The next attack is the password attack, and password attack is as easy and common as the name implies. We think we come up with the best passwords when we create passwords, but we don't know those passwords are as easy as anything, because I'm saying from a general point of view, most persons use passwords that are their children name. If they have children, their surname, their middle name, their maiden name, their community, their, their date of birth, things that are relating to them. That is what people use as password. So when you see this brute force guessing in this type of password attack, now the hacker just basically does a due diligence on the individual he wants to attack. He takes his time, follows you up, your online presence, everything you do. He takes all informations he can from you and imputes everything into that brute force and runs a script, and the system automatically guesses your password. It can take 30 minutes, 1 hour, 10 days, 30 days, 1 year, as much as it is. But at the end, it will guess your password. That is why most times our social media platforms are being hacked, and we end up asking, how did the person gain my password? You would think it's your close friend that has hacked you, but you don't know that it's the hacker that has successfully brute forced your, or dictionary attacked your password. So basically, we need to use very, very explicit passwords in order for the attacker not to be successful with this. Because if you use a very brief, minimum 6 characters or so, no special characters, no capital letter, and so on, if you use a direct password, basically as your password, it takes less than 30 to 1 hour for an hacker to actually breach your system, your social media, your laptop, or whichever case. So basically, that's password attack. The next is ransomware. So ransomware is when the attacker infects a system with malicious software that locks or encrypts you, the user, out of that system and demands for a ransom. It locks you out of your system and demands for a ransom. That is what the ransomware attack is. And they do this successfully via mails, via applications. They send you the same phishing mails. On you clicking them, they've dropped a ransomware into your system, a malware, a malicious program into your system, and the system shuts your system out. So the next is drive-by attack. So for the drive-by attack, it is basically done by in-house person. It associates with social engineering, because the hacker has to come into NIPOST, into your organization, to put this drive into any system, even if it is the front desk receptionist system. Is able to put this drive into. That's all. That is just what he or she needs to actually achieve this drive-by attack. So knowing fully well the sorts of dangerous attacks that are coming out the every day when we go to sleep, attackers don't go to sleep. We close from work 4:35, go home and rest. But attackers is at that point we are resting. That is when they are developing, waiting for the latest trick that they will use in tricking you and I into breaching our data. So some measures that we need to implement are pseudonymization, vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, training and awareness, of which we are handling training and awareness right now for NIPOST, getting them informed about all of this, intrusion detection systems. So for an organization that is large as NIPOST, that utilizes a whole lot of data, it is important that they use IDS systems, because IDS systems brings it pinpoints the hacker whenever it gets into your system. Whenever a visitor that is not supposed to be in your network system gains access to it, it helps to identify and respond immediately. It is like a real-time system. So IDS systems are advised to be procured by various organizations. So encryption also is a very, very important measures to be implemented because it helps to transform our data. This important data that we are trying to secure, it helps to transform this data into a secured format using algorithms to ensure it remains unreadable. So should in case the hacker gets to get hold of this data, because of it is unreadable, he wouldn't be able to demand for ransom. Even if he demands for ransom, you that know you encrypted your information in your cloud, for example, you will not be prompted to make that payment of that huge $1 billion because you know your data is encrypted. So it is very important for us to encrypt our data. Pseudonymization also replacing identifiable information with pseudonyms to reduce the risks of data being traced back to the individuals. Example of pseudonymization: when your bank sends you your monthly statement, normally now, all banks do that as long as you submitted your email. When they send you this, your bank statement, we notice they don't spell or they don't impute your bank account number completely. They just put maybe the first 4 digits and they pseudonymize the remaining 6 digits with asterisk. That asterisk that was used to make that information not completely understandable, that is what is called pseudonymization. So for the data privacy impact assessment, it is proper to conduct assessments to evaluate how data processing activities affect privacy. When we deploy new systems, I'm sure with the way the country we are all going digital in our various MDAs, NIPOS will be thinking of deploying newer digital systems. When they do, at the point they get to deploy these systems, they need to conduct a DPIA on those systems in order to know the risks that is attached to the data that will be stored and used in that system. So that is basically what DPIA means. And it is not just done at the point of deploying of a new system. Even if your work process is about to change to a different work process, as long as it involves the usage of PIIs, personal identifiable information, it is best you handle a DPIA on your system. So we have a technical approach to cybersecurity, and number one is a proactive security method. Like the name implies, proactive. You don't wait for the damage to be done before you do these approaches. You do them before time. So the proactive is used to prevent cyber attacks. Even before they happen, you're already on your toes trying to prevent them. So this approach attempts to locate and correct the organization's vulnerabilities before they are being exploited by the cyber criminals. The cyberspace is becoming so toxic. People are getting so accustomed to cyberbullying, and cyber criminals are on the high side. So we need to be proactive with our security in our organizations. And by doing so, it means handling penetration testing. The penetration testing I just mentioned for the measures to be implemented, we need to handle it occasionally. You give yourself maybe 2 months, quarterly basis or annually basis, of which annually basis is not actually advised, but quarterly basis, every 3 months, NIPOS is supposed to handle a penetration testing, a vulnerability penetration testing, to know where there are loopholes, to know where there are gaps in your systems and take the proper measures. So also another proactive measures is data loss prevention system, that's the DLP. So utilizing DLP systems helps to bring protocols and rules that will fine-tune your data processes, basically. So it helps to handle, to make sure that the data that is being used in NIPOS, be it inflow or outflow, there is a prevention that is being attached to it. There are protocols attached to it. So if the user doesn't meet to these protocols, the system throws a notification or an alert or something. Attack surface management also, and also trainings and awareness are very, very important, of which we are currently handling a training which is to bring awareness to NIPOS about these latest developments. So the next approach is the reactive security approach, which is not really advised, because this is like what's the saying, the deed has already been done and you're trying to recuperate your systems, if that's the word. So now this is basically remediation. It involves remediation and defense against an attack that has already happened. You might have paid the ransom, you might have paid the millions to the attacker that took hold of your systems before handling the reactive measures. So it is not advised to allow your system security to get to this point. But should in case it gets to this point, we still need to have a DLP in place. We still need to have a disaster recovery plan in place. We still need to have endpoint security for our gadgets and our various systems, and also an incident response plan. Should in case a breach happen, what is the plan for NIPOS? If tomorrow, we're not praying for that, but if tomorrow there's a data breach at NIPOS, what is the incident response plan? The IT team is to deploy immediately. What will they do? So all this needs to be set in place as reactive security practices. So the technical and organizational measures include protection of data processing security that can be realized by physical measures in our software or hardware. The organizational measures include measures that involve the implementation of instructions. So the organizational measures is different from the technical measures. The organizational measures include the measures that involve implementation of rules and regulations, policies, procedures that employees in NIPOS must adhere to in order for them to ensure the security of the data that is being utilized in NIPOS. So some of the organizational measures are the data protection policy, the data protection officer, the employee training, data inventory, data privacy impact assessment, incident response plan, third-party risk management. I'm sure NIPOS has a number of third-party vendors that work hand in hand. Data retention policies. We need to know the time I and my colleague came to NIPOS to train the senior staffs. They mentioned that they don't have a data retention policy, and we advised for NIPOS to come up with a retention policy. How long should, in case I as a customer come to use NIPOS to deliver my mail or my money or an item, and the delivery has been completed, how long will NIPOS keep my data in your system? So regular audits also is very, very paramount. So some applicable organizational measures are, number one is the email policy. So we know the email is a crucial communication channel, and having an email policy ensures its usage in a very, very secured manner. So number one is the guidelines for secure email, which is only use official company email accounts for business communications. When I got my employment under the commission, I had options of using my Gmail to communicate with my head of department. My Yahoo mail was there. I had numerous mails. But because of the policy that was in place in the commission that no, you must use the mail that has been given to you by NDPC. So I had to wait for an email account to be created for me at ndpc.com, my name, So NIPOS has to utilize the email communication system for your communication. We know that procuring most of these things are on the high side because they are all in dollar value. And we know currently dollar is rising and rising. So in as much, we still need to procure them because when a breach is to occur, the money you have to pay to recover your systems or your data, I bet you it will be more than the money you were to use in getting that email system for all the staffs of NIPOST. I'm sure some staffs of NIPOST still use their Gmail and their Yahoo Mail in communication, which is wrong. So we need to only use official company email for business communications. Avoid opening emails or attachments from unknown or suspicious sources. This focuses on the phishing mails. When you see a mail that is in your inbox and you don't know the sender, there's nobody that even called you officially that, oh, hello, sir, I sent you a mail. Please check your mailbox. You need to avoid opening such mail because there are some threats, there are some malwares that they don't need you to even download them. They just need you to click on the mail. Once you click on the mail, automatically they've had access to your system, basically. So we need to avoid opening emails from unknown sources. We need to be cautious of phishing attempts and report them immediately. So we need to encrypt and put in digital signatures. For those that don't know what digital signatures are, when you receive a mail, at the bottom of it, you see the name of the sender, the organization, and probably a disclaimer that is there. Should in case you have been like that is an email signature, a digital mail signature. So it is very important for sensitive information to carry digital signatures and to also be transmitted in a encrypted form. So digital signatures ensure that the message you're receiving has 100% integrity and authenticity. So the email retention, like I said, emails should be retained and archived based on the legal and regulatory requirements of NIPOST. You don't just keep your mails for 50 years, 100 years. There should be a lifespan. When it gets to that period, all these mails should be erased or deleted or something. So archiving enables efficient retrieval and supports compliant audit. So the next policy that is to be adhered to is the internet use policy. Most persons, when they get to the workspace, for those of us that have access to internet in our offices, that NIPOS has provided internet for you, and you get to the office, the thing you use the internet to do is to download from unauthorized websites that are just on the www. It is prohibited and it is wrong to do that because you don't know who placed that download there. You're not sure if that download there is a trap for you. So we as staffs of NIPOST, we should only use the internet that has been given to. If it's your personal internet you're using, fine. Internet you're using, fine. Foundations, infrastructure. Like I said, these technical and organizational measures are used globally. Anywhere you find yourself tomorrow, you can adhere to these and be sure that you're on the right track. So we need to adhere to ethical standards and avoid accessing inappropriate content, downloading unauthorized or accessing on unauthorized websites, engaging in cyberbullying or any illegal activities. So the next is access control. So access control policy ensures secure access to organizational resources. strong passwords and regular password updates are required. Most of us, we use one password for numerous platforms. We use short passwords that don't meet requirements. So here we are told that strong passwords are needed and regular password updates are required. Multi-factor authentication also adds an extra layer to our security. We know what MFA means. MFA has saved me countless times when some persons try to hack into my account. Because of I have MFA in my account, they got hold of my password. I don't know how they got hold of my password, and then they, after bypassing my password, they still came to MFA. And you know, MFA is linked to your phone number or an authenticator that is in your phone. So that was what saved me from being breached by hackers. So for the want of being secured, all our platforms from Facebook down to Instagram, down to any platform we use today now has MFA in the security settings. So it is very important for us to utilize these security prompts, because um, the persons that built this MFA, they saw the need, because they saw that password was no longer doing the work for us. So they had to take security to the next step, and that next step is MFA. So we all need to add that extra layer of security for our various platforms. Role-based access control also are assigned based on job roles. I'm sure we have systems already in NIPOS that business activities are done online. So for this focuses on the access privileges. As me now, that is the IT officer in my office, I shouldn't be having access to what the legal department or the finance department is doing, or the communications department. Even though we are all in that NIPO system, there should be role-based access and privileges and responsibilities. So the least privilege principle is followed to limit unnecessary access. So like I said, the password policy, password complexity, and the requirements. Because of the scare of forgetting password, because of humans, we have a lot of things in our heads, and so many persons, because of age factor, we tend not to want to use very complex password. So this focuses on that particular want of using a complex password for your for your systems. So your password should not be shared, and different passwords should be used for different systems. Sorry. We are all guilty of the second policy under password, because if I'm to ask in this training now, how many persons use one password for Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and so on, you see hands will be raised. It is bad practice, because if I, as an ethical hacker, is to hack your Facebook successfully with a password that I guessed, I will quickly use that password to run to your mobile banking app. I will run to your Instagram. I will go to all platforms necessary and available to try that password. So that is where this policy becomes important, because for most of us that are lazy to memorize our passwords, we decide to use one password for numerous platforms. So we are being told here to not use that. We should use different passwords, because of the need or because of the problem of forgetting our passwords. We can utilize password manager, and by password manager, I'm not advising us to utilize the Chrome password manager, because the Chrome password manager is not secured. Most of us now, when we are using our browser, when we click a new password, because of laziness, we just automatically save the password there. so that next time when we come, we just click, go on, click, go on. But that is bad practice, because somebody can come and social engineer you and just say, hello ma, please, my phone is bad, can I use your phone? And that few minutes that he or she gets hold of your phone, he can quickly go to your Google password manager, screenshot it or snap it with his own phone. That split minute, he has gotten more than 10 of your passwords. So you see why even Google Password Manager is not trusted, is not reliable. So for that, we can use encrypted password managers. There is KeePass. We can also use LastPass. There are encrypted password managers that all you need to do is to memorize just that password you need to get into that particular encrypted password manager. So the password manager helps you to keep hold of all your numerous passwords, as the case may be, so that you don't get to bother your head with cramming password, knowing fully well your password has to be lengthy, it has to be complicated, as you have to use special characters, email ads, / plus, minus, anything you can think of, just to make it very, very difficult for the password attacker to gain access into. So the next policy is the mobile computing policy. So this policy addresses the security challenges that is posed by mobile devices. So we need to enable device encryption and use biometric authentication. We need to keep operating systems up to date. Most times, because of the want of being humans and being lazy, our phones, our devices, our tablets always prompt us to update it before shutting down. Always, mostly when it has been exposed to the network and it has pulled the update from the internet and has told you click and update your system. Because of laziness, because of how we are busy, and so on and so forth, we tend to ignore updating of our systems, and that exposes you to an attack called zero-day attack. That zero-day attack is when the attacker is waiting for that day when that update you have expires. The moment that update expires on that day, they have designed a method to hack all those that have not updated their phones, their systems, or whatever you're using. So they are just waiting patiently until the day it expires and your application developer has sent you an updated patch for you to use. But because of laziness, we tend not to update it, and this brings about breaches into our systems. So we need to implement a mobile device management for centralized control. The IT department in the NIPOST needs to deploy MDM for our working tools. This helps to remote wipe your system. Should in case you misplace your system somewhere on transit, anywhere you forget your system, in the airport, in the train, you just need to call your IT team that, look, I lost my system, please remote wipe it, please delete everything, please do this, do that. But if this MDM is not already in your system will be naked for anybody to access it. And you don't know if you we don't know nowadays, we are exposed to a lot of important data, and we know data is the new oil. Globally, data is the new oil. So we need to protect it as much as we can. So encryption and password protection, sensitive data on mobile devices should always be encrypted. I'm sure we've mentioned encryption numerous times at the course of this training because of how important it is. So we need to set strong passwords and enable screen locks in our devices. So the bring your own device policy, BYOD, it focuses on staffs that come to the workplaces with their working tools. They want their own personal device. Most of us, like I said, because of the want to deliver your assignment given to you, or because of there's no finance to procure working tools for everybody working in NIPOS. Some staffs might be prompted to come with their own devices. When you do so, you still need to adhere to all the numerous policies we just went through. They still encroach into you because you come in, you use the network, you use the systems with your own personal device. So employees using personal devices must adhere to policy guidelines. Ensure your device compatibility and the security measures of NIPOS are in place. They are 100. So acceptable use of devices, define limitations of the device within organization, access to specific applications or network resources may be restricted. Knowing fully well it's a personal device, those sort of persons should not be given access to a whole lot of processes in NIPOS. Should, in case these devices are being breached or stolen, it will be able to restrict the level of damage that comes to you. So the next is the software policy. Software policy ensures proper software usage and compliance. So authorized software usage, only use licensed and authorized software excuse me, within your organization. Unlicensed software usage can lead to legal and security risks. For those that are not IT inclined, this focuses on downloading things from the internet without proper authorization. When I got my working tool in my workspace, as an IT person, I could easily go to the www to download every application and even more than what I needed. You understand? But because of this policy that is invoked in the commission, I had to go take permission from the head of IT that, look, I want to do this for my system. And he told me, no, it's not permitted. Just hold on. A staff of the IT is going to come with all applications and softwares that you need to deliver your work. You understand? So with that now, I am safe. The commission is safe because the softwares that were installed were all, they were all from the commission. They were all approved. So patch management and updates. We need to regularly apply software updates to address vulnerabilities. Like I earlier said in the previous slide, we need to regularly update our software because of that zero-day attackers. Zero-day attackers, they just wait patiently for when your update in that your phone or your laptop has expired. The moment it is expiring, they send the attack across everybody using the outdated software, and definitely they will get victims and they will exploit and extort those victims. So the next is the network security policy, and this focuses on your network infrastructure. I'm sure there's a network infrastructure that NIPOS utilizes for senior staffs and staff entirely. So we need to have network segmentation, we need to have firewall configuration and wireless network security. For the network segmentation, it means segmenting the limit of segmenting the network, visitors, Wi-Fi, senior management network, and junior staff's network. Not everybody should be confined in one network system, so that should, in case there's a breach, the attacker will not have access to everybody's system. It will only be those that are in that segment that he got hold of. So for firewalls, we know firewalls basically are there to protect us. So we need to configure firewalls to control the incoming and the outgoing network traffic. We need to define the rules and the policies for allowing or blocking specific network traffic types. Secure wireless networks with strong encryption and unique password using protocols like WPA2 and WPA3 and enable network segmentation for guest network, like I said. So the last but not the least is the ClearDesk and ClearScreen policy. So the ClearDesk policy promotes a clean and secure work environment. Most persons, if you are to visit their workstation now, you'll be surprised the number of things that are on their desks. Papers, memos, all sort of things, data are just lying open on their desks. And we know you can't control the human eye. You can't control the human eye. Because of the want of keeping confidentiality in your workspace, there has to be a ClearDesk and ClearScreen policy in practice in your organization, because some staffs, because of the long hours of sitting down, for example, they might want to stretch their legs to move around to visit a colleague in another department. Now going to that department and seeing confidential data lying on the table open, knowing fully well the eyes cannot be controlled, in a split second they will see what they are not supposed to see, and that has breached the confidentiality of that particular data. So we need to instruct employees to clear their desks of sensitive documents and lock them when unattended to. Encourage employees to lock their computer screens or log out away from their desks. You don't know, there might be somebody in your NIPOST who is angry at NIPOST, who wants to sabotage NIPOST, and because of you as a staff, you're not maintaining ClearDesk policy and ClearScreen policy, you get up, you leave your desk, go to the restroom, go downstairs or go outside to pick up a memo or something, and you end up leaving your screen without locking it. That particular staff might have access to your system and grant access to an hacker who is outside your commission. You get it? So it is important to, as many times as you get up from your desk, it is important to lock your system screen. For those that have working tools, it is important to lock as many, because you don't know who is who. In the whole cybersecurity space, there is what is called zero trust. Zero trust. You can never trust your colleague in the office 100%, because that person smiling with you might be the person that is coming in a form of social engineering to trick you into gaining access to your system and extorting money from your organization. So with that, I've come to the end of my slides, and yeah, we can scan the QR code for the Nigerian Data Protection Act. For those of us that didn't scan it, you can use your iPhones to scan it. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, we can post our questions in the chat. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ebe Kwenemo Victor. Sorry, I hope I didn't murder your name. Thank you for the session. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Yes,
all
sir.
right.
We are hearing you.
All right. So, my dear colleagues, please, in case you have a question, just drop it in the chat box, and then if you feel you want to ask your question verbally, then just indicate by a show of hand. Let's do this briefly before I bring up the director digital transformation. And also, I like to also recognize one of the senior directors in NIPOS, Director Rick's Compliance, in person of Barrister Ruth. She has joined this training from the beginning, and I see she's still on call. So thank you so much, Ma, for being part of this training. We really appreciate your commitment and your stay and your interest also in the subject of data protection. So, my dear colleagues, I don't know if there's anybody raising up his hand or you have a question you've dropped in the chat box. Let us know. Let's do it snappy, please. Thank you. Yahya Ibrahim.
Yes, sir.
Are you Yahya? Okay. You want to ask a question?
Yes, I've sent it. Via the chat.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let me check your question.
Mr. Bond.
Sir.
Yeah, quick one. Somebody asked a question the other time that that he joined the meeting late, the training late. What's the difference between personal data and sensitive data? Now, this Yaya is asking question that why is address not part of sensitive data? So maybe they can just take it up from there.
Hello? Can you all hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
So on the first question is, what is the difference between personal data and sensitive personal data? Like, there's no major difference. It's just they are all personal data. All we are saying, the exposure of one is more critical than the other. Like I gave an example. Your name is not unique to you in any way. My name is Yusuf. You have so many people bearing Yusuf. So the name is not unique to me in a way. But my health record, my genotype, majorly is unique to me. My ethnicity, they may be fine. You have so many other people that are bearing my name that are also my ethnicity. You understand? But in a way, it's unique to me in a way to identify me. So what we are saying is the exposure of my name being Yusuf. You understand? Let's say we are in a group. My name is Yusuf, but I didn't tell you my tribe. I didn't tell you my ethnicity. It's possible you assume that, okay, this is Yusuf from the north. I can either be from the north, I can either be from the south. But without you attaching my ethnicity or my tribe to it, but you say this is Yusuf from Ogun State, is a Yoruba boy. So one way or the other, you use those key things to identify me. And that alone can single me out in a way compared to when you just mention my name alone. You understand? And the exposure of my name as Yusuf may not really bring any harm to me compared to when you've exposed my health record. Like, okay, this particular Yusuf is has tuberculosis or is HIV positive. That alone can make people discriminate against me in a very serious way. You understand? That's what we are saying. So your sensitive personal record, as in the exposure of that alone, can cause a lot of damage compared to just any personal data, your name, your phone number, your email address. But when somebody know about your health record, this person is HIV positive, this person has tuberculosis, this person is a criminal, this person is a thief, this person is from this particular tribe, you understand? This can really hinder a lot of things. People can use those kind of data to harm you. Like, okay, you know, this is Yusuf. Maybe like we know in this particular part of the world where sentiment is everything we do, then maybe a director is trying to promote some other people and he wants to exclude some people from another tribe. So attaching this key sensitive information can really make people discriminate against you. So that's why you know the sensitivity of a particular personal data, unlike something that can be used easily to identify you, and people will not really read any meaning to it. So considering why address is not a sensitive, but your house address is not a sensitive data really, because even if you enter a street, you know this is particular street name, your house address is clearly stated on the front, in the front of your house. You understand? And it's even possible you're not the only one staying in the house. So there's nothing sensitive about your house address compared to your health record or your political affiliation or your gender. You understand? These are sensitive data, but your house address is not sensitive. It's not sensitive personal information.
How do we report the data breach? Is online and via
So you can report, somebody is asking how do you report data breach? You can report online, you go to the website. So you can go to the website and make your report, and you can also submit a physical copy of your complaint to the commission. Right now, we only have one office in Abuja, which is as number 12. Number 12, Dr. Clementison Street, Isukoro, Abuja. That's the only office we have right now. We don't have any other offices, but there are plans on the way to have offices across Nigeria.
Thank you so much for the lecture. My question is, which really whether most organizations sometimes do not provide relevant tools for staff to work for one reason or the other. How can staff be protected in the case of cyber attack when the initial state proactive utility software are not available?
So this legally sticks to organizational measures. As an organization, if your organization has not provided you with relevant tools to work, that does not mean you should be careless about the information you carry around, because you know the exposure of such information can also harm you. If you are going around with your laptop, you understand, you don't have a lock over, just like your normal phone. You have your phone with you are using your phone with you have your information on the phone, and you also have information that relates to the offices, to your office. If you don't protect, any exposure of that can really harm you. Aside harming your office, can also harm you personally. We've seen situations where people clone other people's phone number, hack people's WhatsApp number, and use it to solicit funds from people that are on those people's contacts. So this can really have a lot of damage on your reputation as a person. You understand? So what you just need to do is, we understand the situation in Nigeria. Most organizations don't even provide their staff with relevant tools to work. You understand? But even if you are using your personal tools, you should put in additional information. You understand? Make sure you have authenticator factors to unlocking your phone, your laptop. You understand the need for transparency. Maybe you are with your wife, you need to be transparent, you need to provide the password to your phone so that your wife or your husband will not feel you're hiding anything. But at the same time, it's also key to protect the information on those devices, because any exposure of those information can really harm you in a bad way. So it's still important.
Okay. So we have digital transformation. I don't know if you can graciously avail us the slide, because a lot of our colleagues are asking, are making that request so that they can actually fall back to it as a way of refreshing themselves.
Please,
Okay, do you want to ask a question?
Of the coordinator of this particular training, and send the training slide to his mail so that you can share it with everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm seeing Buki. You want to ask a question or what?
Yes, please. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, my wonderful colleagues. I have a question concerning vulnerability, threats, and risk in data protection. Are there any difference, and what are the risks attached to it? That's in vulnerability, threats, and risk.
Victor, can you answer that question, please?
Yes. So basically, vulnerability, threats, and risks, right?
Yes, please.
So vulnerability and risks and the threats, they like, you're just separating they all mean the same thing. Vulnerability now is basically your system, as we tend to use our systems every day, there tend to be loopholes in our systems. So we need to envision it. We need to go ahead of these hackers by checking them by ourselves. That's why we need to do vulnerability testing to test your system if there has been any vulnerability as per you utilizing it. Then the threats come in like when the attackers try to attack you. Basically, you get to, like, now you are there now and you start seeing somebody sending you OTP for your bank. That is automatically a threat to you. You understand why the risks now, when they get hold of this your data, the risks involved, if it's a very important data that is supposed to be for a few persons' eyes only, and this data has been exposed on the social media. It has brought about risks. Maybe it's health records, for example, of high-class persons in Nigeria, politicians in Nigeria, and you as a record holder, you let this data out, or you are being careless and it was being breached. The risks involved is very, very enormous, because some persons might even kill themselves. Some persons might go. There are various risks attached to this, the breach of data. Basically, that's it.
Thank you.
Papa, thank you for ordering my faith. Thank you for ordering myself for my family members. Papa, come to order my faith. For order me the path I will
Okay.
follow.
So,
When you follow the
Jasper,
path, I want to put to shame. And I will
are you asking a question?
by your leadership, by your mercy.
Hello, Jasper. Jasper, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
All right. Are you asking a question or what?
No, right on. Sorry, sir. Well done.
All right. So, in the absence of any question, I'd like to bring in the Director of Digital Transformation for the concluding part of this training.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Bond.
So,
first and foremost, I want to sincerely appreciate the director of this.
Sir.
Yes, I've taken over. I want to sincerely appreciate the team from Nigerian Data Protection. It's been a wonderful time training us for the past 3 to 4 hours. We're taking it for granted. Mrs. Abiola Abe, who has been the liaison officer to NIPOST, making it possible for us to be trained. We appreciate you, whether you're seen online or not. I want to sincerely appreciate all the trainers, Mr. Yusuf and Mr. Victor and Madam Fati, all of you. We say a very big thank you. And also, in line with all this appreciation, permit me to appreciate my colleague, the Senior Director in NIPOST, Barrister Ruth Badung. She called me behind the scene to tell me, why am I holding down directors for 3 hours? I said, Madam, please, just help us, stay along, So it's been a wonderful time all together. I want to appreciate those that NIPOST cannot exist without them. Those are all the participants of this training. Without you, NIPOST cannot exist. I appreciate all of you for the wonderful work you have been doing. I thank you all. I thank you all for this sacrifice. Number one, many of you use your data, you use your money to buy data, even when the organization is not giving it to us, but the sacrifice. I'm personally using my data. So not because I'm a director, I'm using my phone now. So it's not as if I'm using my post office, I'm using my corporate. So I bought data with my salary, as all of you and Buki have done. So I say thank you to everybody. I appreciate everybody for taking part in this training. More opportunity will be coming. So those that will be taking it, and I want to assure you, the sky is our starting point. We have a great, height to attain in this our career. So Mr. Bond, thank you for anchoring. Mr. Felix, I thank you also for providing the logistics. Thank you, everybody. Once again, thank you all. Now, NDPC team, thank you so very much. So on this note, I want to say thank you and God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Also, this training was streamed live on YouTube, so you can go to
thank you, sir,
and then go through it again. All right, bye for now.
Buki.
Thank you, sir.
Hello,
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir.
Thank you, sir.